day it's a blessing to play football.
I'm ready to go.
Jet up, baby. Good to be in green and white.
You don't get no better than this, man. Hey, tune in. We about to put on the show.
Welcome into Pregame Central presented by Pepsi. Olivia Landis and Eric Allen here at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida, just ahead of the Jets and Miami Dolphins matchup. Yeah, there was actually a college game on in this stadium last night. What do you think of the conditions of the field?
Well, certainly a lot better than what we saw Saturday night when the University of Miami hosted Duke. The Blue Devils came away with the victory, but the major storyline from a Jets perspective there was it was a downpour throughout the first half of that ball game, and a lot of people were very concerned about the field conditions today. I took a little walk around the field here as we came out here this morning, and I'd say it's patchy, but it's not really wet. So I think they've done a good job taking care of the field. But with all that being said, we're going to have to see what happens throughout the first and second quarters of this game. Very brown in spots, but it's not muddy.
Now, hopefully it doesn't give the players any trouble. I mean, this is Miami, so who knows? It could downpour at any point.
And it is uneven. Like, if you walk around, that's the one thing that could impact the guys today. It's not a level playing surface.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we'll have to see and monitor the weather, but hopefully moving forward doesn't give them any troubles. The Jets are now 3-5 on the season, currently coming off of 2 losses at home. And the Miami Dolphins are 4-4. They've had 10 days to prepare for this Jets matchup coming off of a Thursday night football game against the Houston Texans. Is this a must-win for both teams?
It's tough to call any game in the National Football League a must-win, but I would say yes. The Jets right now, they want to get off to a positive, on the positive side of things as they start the season's second quarter. They have not been 3 games under 500 all year. They had a 3-game losing streak where they won 1-3, but if they lost today, they'd be 3 games under 500. They need this ball game. Conversely, you're looking at the Miami Dolphins. They started out hot out of the gates, 3-0, but they've lost 4 of 5. They're 4-4 at the midway point. I think both teams need this ball game. So, yeah, put me on record. I do think it is a must-win.
All right, it's on record. EA saying this is a must-win. I'd like to quickly point out that later in the show, we will have Miami Herald columnist Armando Salguero on the show, and he's going to talk more in depth about this Jets and Miami matchup. So we'll look forward to seeing him a little bit later. But now, actually, EA, there were some transactions this past Saturday.
Yeah, and the Jets could get a shot in the arm with the return of Eli McGuire, the second-year running back from Louisiana Lafayette. He had a very strong spring. He was hurt on the first day of training camp. He missed the season's first 8 games, but he should provide some versatility in the backfield. I like that pairing with him and Isaiah Crowell, of course. Unfortunately, Bilal Powell on injured reserve. The other move here, and Eli McGuire can help out in so many different facets. He can run the football, he can catch it out of the backfield, you can see him on special teams as well. And then also on Saturday, the Jets activated Rontez Miles, and the Jets special teams has been a great story for the green and white throughout the season's first 8 games. Getting the Tasmanian Devil back in action will be a boost as well.
Hopefully both of those players can contribute to the Jets offense and defense as well. It'll be good to see both of those players coming back. Moving forward, something that we know is going to be on the Jets' mind is avoiding the series sweep. Obviously, earlier in the season, the second week, the first home game for the Jets, they did lose to the Miami Dolphins 20-12. So it's going to be crucial to avoid that series sweep.
Yeah, you're right about that, Liv. You never want to be swept inside the division. And the Dolphins, they rode turnovers, takeaways early in that ball game, and the Jets were playing from behind all afternoon in week 2 on the way to a 2012 defeat. Sam Darnold had a pair of critical turnovers, including one when he was throwing to Terrell Pryor inside the red zone. I think both teams have changed so much since week 2. We're going to talk to Armando Salguero about that here in our second segment on Pregame Central. But yeah, the Jets definitely will have revenge on their minds. And remember, last year they came here at Hard Rock Stadium, they had a 28-14 lead heading into the fourth quarter, and they were unable to hold on to that lead. So I think the Jets have to play a 60-minute game, and let's see how much they've learned since week 2.
This game is the start of some AFC East flavor. We mentioned it earlier, but this will be the next 3 games are actually AFC East opponents for the Jets, which is a little bit different because earlier in the season, they didn't see too many of them. They've only seen the Miami Dolphins.
No, you're right about that. So after this week, you get the Dolphins here on the road. If you're able to come up out of here with a victory, you get a chance to get to 500 at home against the Buffalo Bills. That precedes a bye week, and then you'll have some extra time to prepare for the New England Patriots. Only one AFC East game for the Jets over the season's first half. Well, that's going to change in a big way here in the season's second half. 4 of the next 5 games for the New York Jets inside the AFC East.
Coming up, we have Miami Herald columnist Armando Salguero. He will be discussing this Jets and Miami Dolphins matchup, but right before we bring him on the show, let's now hear from General Manager Mike Maccagnan talking about Sam Darnold and his progress so far at this point in the season.
Well, it's difficult for any young quarterback to come into the league, especially as a rookie, and transition to the NFL. So there's always a maturation process they go through. But a lot of things like, that Sam got exposed to in college from the college system he ran and the competition he played against as he transitioned to the NFL. There's a lot of things that he's never really had to deal with before from a learning standpoint, from a system and from a scheme standpoint, from playing against a much better talent. The thing we've really liked with Sam is how he's been, the coaches have really developed him, brought him along. I know in college he did a lot of really, impressive things we saw playing, within the pocket, off schedule. I think the one really impressive thing is how he's had some good games and bad games, but he's really made progress, we felt, in terms of handling the offense and playing from the pocket. And we're excited about him going forward. We feel, he's very young. He's just turned 21, but we feel he's a bright upside.
General Manager Mike Maccagnan there, obviously showing his confidence in new rookie quarterback Sam Darnold. Welcome back to Pregame Central, presented by Pepsi. Olivia Landis, Eric Allen, and now we are joined by Miami Herald columnist Armando Salguero. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, and thank you for pronouncing the name so well.
How about
absolutely.
that? She was all over that early. All right,
Early in the show.
Armando, what happened this week when you asked Dolphins head coach Adam Gase about Ryan Tannehill?
Well, so you might have guessed that NFL people are a little hardwired. They're a little tight, especially on game week. And so the question came up about Ryan Tannehill, who's obviously injured, not playing today, and whether he has improved this season from 2016 when he was last playing for Adam Gase. And Adam Gase was making the point that he had. I have eyes. And so I disagreed with him respectfully. I said to him, he's not better. And Adam Gase obviously didn't expect me to challenge him like that. Look, I've been on this beat since 1990. I was covering the Dolphins when Adam Gase was a graduate assistant at LSU. And so I'm not an expert, but I can tell good quarterback play from bad, and I can read stats just like anybody else. And Adam Gase took exception to that, and you know what ensued.
Well, moving forward, what is your overall take of this Miami Dolphins quarterback situation now that Brock Osweiler is going to be starting another game?
Yeah, that's the thing. Brock Osweiler is the backup to Ryan Tannehill. He's played as well as Ryan Tannehill.
So his numbers, they look almost identical.
Exactly, if not better, actually. And to look at the offense, they process faster, they move quicker. So if your backup quarterback, your offense looks better than with your starter, yeah, you've got a great backup quarterback situation, but you've got to start taking a look at your starter, no? So yeah, he's going to be starting today, Brock. I would say to you this, he's been good.
Yeah.
Eventually, Brock Osweiler will have a Brock Osweiler game, and we'll understand why Brock Osweiler is a career backup.
When the Dolphins look across the sideline today, Armando, do you think they would say, hey, we're a little bit envious of the Jets, that they've moved up in the draft and they got a rookie quarterback who a lot of people in the National Football League are very high on?
Absolutely. So the Jets, they have their quarterback of the future, right? That's another thing with Ryan Tannehill. He's 30 years old, and the Dolphins ostensibly still don't know what they have. He's in his 7th year. The Dolphins also could have moved up in the draft. They could have gone and gotten, Allen from who went at number 7.
Yeah,
the
right.
Dolphins were at number 11. The Bills jumped them from number 12.
Yep.
So the Dolphins, obviously, they decided not to, change out Ryan Tannehill. That was their decision. And if they look across that field today and see a potential franchise quarterback for the next 15 years, that's their problem.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring it quickly back to Brock Osweiler. You mentioned a few changes that you've noticed in the offense, but overall, how has this offense had to adjust having Brock Osweiler now at quarterback?
So Brock is 6'7", and very lanky, very giraffe. And so, and so
That's a
what
first
happens
on Pregame
is
Central.
he's not going to run. I would say the run pass option, no one's really buying the run part of that. Ryan Tannehill's way more athletic. He's more likely to run. So that's the part that changes for the worse for the Miami Dolphins.
What has changed in your mind most significantly since week 2 when the Dolphins came to MetLife Stadium and won 20-12? We talked about the quarterback position. Obviously, that's the most important. Well, what else is happening?
So the defense is is embattled right now. It's under attack. They gave up 248 rushing yards to Detroit.
The last time they were here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Last Thursday night, they gave up 5 touchdown passes to Deshaun Watson and 42 points. That's not a good night. So what has changed is people have figured out the Dolphins' defense. Whether the Jets have it figured out or not, we'll see.
What adjustments do you believe that the defense is going to have to make to find more success moving forward, especially in today's game?
Well, they've got 2 rookie linebackers. Those 2 guys need to figure it out, because those 248 yards that they gave up rushing against Detroit, the 188 yards they gave up the week before against Chicago, those guys need to fill gaps when the defensive line is not there. They need to fill the hole, and they haven't been.
What is this team's identity right now, the Miami Dolphins? What do they want to be?
What they want to be is a team that competes with the New England Patriots. They're not that.
Right.
They're a mediocre team. They're 4-4. Over the last 25 years, they're 196 and 196. Their head coach Adam Gase is 20-20. So, what's their identity? I think their identity is we're mediocre. No?
Well, your stats back it up better than any I've maybe ever have heard. But how can the Jets exploit some mismatches today when you look at this game as you've been studying it this week?
Well, obviously the Dolphins defense, getting back to that, they've had a lot of busts in the secondary. I assume that the Jets have seen that. I assume that they're going to test the secondary. The same defense has also been giving up a lot of running yards when you have an overstacked line to one side. The Texans did it after the Detroit Lions did it. It worked. I assume you'll see that. And on offense, if you get after Brock Osweiler, again, he has trouble getting out of the way.
Yeah.
So if you get after him, he's going to have a long day.
Armando, back in week 2 when the Dolphins defeated the Jets 20-12 at home, now moving forward, we're back in week 9. What are some of the main differences you've seen of this team from week 2 to week 9, excluding the quarterback situation, which we already mentioned?
Right. So what we see now is the running game is more Frank Gore intense. Earlier it was Kenyon Drake, so that's going to be a thing. Albert Wilson, who arguably was their most productive wide receiver, he's out for the year. He had 4 touchdowns catching the football, running the football in 5 games. And, oh, by the way, he had also thrown a touchdown pass. So he's not here today. That means that they're less explosive.
Okay.
Devontae Parker and Kenny Stills. Do you anticipate Stills going today? I know he's limited at practice. We'll get into inactives here in a couple minutes. And it seems like Parker hasn't been productive for the most part for the Dolphins, but he broke out against the Texans.
So Stills worked out earlier, and he had a meeting with Adam Gase, my friend. after that workout. And I wanted to go over to Adam and ask him, but I was here with you guys, so I couldn't do it. Shucks!
Rained on your parade. I'm so sorry.
Hey, Armando, I said earlier that I consider this a must-win. From a Jets perspective, they lost 2 in a row. They lost 3 in a row earlier in the season, but rebounded from that and got to 500. If they lost this game, they'd be 3 games under 500 for the first time in 2018. Conversely, the Dolphins started out of the gate 3-0. They've lost 4 out of 5. Is it a must for them as well?
Right, and the Dolphins still have designs on making the playoffs. Playoff teams don't lose 3 in a row, including 2 at home. In the middle of the season, before their bye week, before they have to travel next week to Green Bay and play Aaron Rodgers. So I would say to you, it's a must-win for the Miami Dolphins as well.
Well, thank you so much again to Miami Herald columnist Armando Salguero. We really appreciate all of your input on this Jets and Dolphins game. You can follow Armando on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
Armando Salguero.
All right,
Amazing.
there you go. Amazing, right?
It took me about 15 minutes to figure that out.
It's easy, and I'm sure you gained a couple thousand followers this week.
Oh, yeah. Well, we really appreciate your input. But now it is time for the Pepsi Fan of the Game. This week, our Pepsi Fan of the Game is John from Saddlebrook, New Jersey. Congratulations to John, a longtime Jets fan. If you want to be or have a chance to be our next Pepsi Fan of the Game, be sure to download the official Jets app and watch this show, Pregame Central, presented by Pepsi, before every home and away game for your chance to be the next Pepsi Fan of the Game. So thank you again to John. Congratulations, Pepsi Fan of the Game. And thank you to Armando. He's a lot of really good input on this Dolphins team that the Jets are now facing for the second time this season.
Wow. Some of those numbers were staggering. The numbers, how he went back and showed how the Dolphins have been very average. 500 under Adam Gase, 40 games, 20-20. That's something else. Yeah, Miami, they need this ball game just as much as the Jets. So it's a fascinating matchup on a number of levels, Olivia. Another thing that to keep in mind is last year, right here at Hard Rock Stadium, the Jets knocked Jay Cutler out of the ball game, and Matt Moore was able to lead a comeback against the Jets. Now, today at Hard Rock, Ryan Tannehill on the shelf nursing that shoulder injury, as we talked about with Armando, and the Jets will face a backup quarterback in Brock Osweiler.
Well, like Armando said, it's a must-win for the Dolphins. We know it's a must-win for the Jets, so we'll just have to see how today goes. But now I'd like to get into some of the inactives. We did mention that Eli McGuire is active, Rontez Miles is active, so that's some good news. But who is not going to be on the field today?
Well, we're going to find out about the inactives here at 11:30 officially. There are 2 guys Jets fans have to pay special attention to. Those are Robbie Anderson, the South Florida native who had a scoring reception right here last season, went to Plantation High School. You know Robbie Anderson wants to play, been dealing with a sprained ankle.
Yeah.
He practiced on Friday on a limited basis. He is questionable. Also, one of the Jets Energizer bunnies is Quincy Enunwa. He got hurt against Indianapolis Colts with a sprained ankle as well. He's been out the last couple of games, but Sam Darnold might be getting him back. So if you see 81 and 11 on the field and they aren't part of the inactives, the Jets offense is gonna have the opportunity to be a lot more complete. And Armando mentioned it before, Olivia. Deshaun Watson, the last time we saw the Miami Dolphins on Thursday Night Football, he carved up that secondary with 5 touchdown passes.
So like you said, that is my apologies. We will be getting the inactives at 11:30. We'll make sure and let you guys know as soon as possible and as soon as that information becomes available. Now let's go to some of your fearless takeaways for this Miami Dolphins and Jets matchup today.
Well, the Jets haven't had
Fearless predictions.
Yeah, well,
fearless predictions.
You stole my thunder. We're going to go to takeaways there. The Jets haven't had any takeaways over the last couple games. They thrived early in the season with the takeaways. And when they were playing winning football, they were playing complementary football, and they were getting after it defensively. I think they'll have opportunities to make some plays in the defensive backfield and get some of those takeaways today against Brock Osweiler. So I predict multiple takeaways for the Jets defense. And offensively, we just talked to Armando about it. these Dolphin linebackers minus Kiko Alonso, Kiko's been in the lineup. He's been playing well. The other two guys in there, they haven't been playing as well with their gap control, their gap integrity. I think the Jets are going to get it moving on the ground today. Jeremy Bates challenged the offensive line, said, you got to play with an attitude for 3 hours on Sunday. You basically have to be a maniac for 3 hours. He challenged those guys. So they're going to put a hat on a hat, and they're going to try to win in the trenches. Isaiah Crowell will get rolling. Also, watch out for Eli McGuire. We talked about Robbie Anderson. We talked about Quincy Enunwa. McGuire probably will get some offensive touches as well. So this Jets offense will look more complete. I say the Jets rush for more than 150 yards.
I actually really like that fearless prediction because, one, we were talking about it earlier, but this Miami Dolphins defense is tied for 29th in the league against the rush. And number two, like you said, Eli McGuire is back in the game, which is going to be really exciting. He's a very explosive player. So I like that fearless prediction. I think I'll second that one.
Okay, I like that. The Dolphins, over their last 3 games, have yielded on average 200 yards a game on the ground. And the last time they played right here at Hard Rock, Detroit ran it down their throat. Let's see if the Jets can do that today.
All right, that's it for us here on Pregame Central, presented by Pepsi. Miami Dolphins, New York Jets, kickoff time of 1 p.m. But before we go, we're going to leave you with one of the most historical games between these two in a rivalry game called the Monday Night Miracle.
The Dolphins leading the New York Jets 30-7.
I'll tell you one thing, as usual, the Jets are going to come from behind. You will see.
Who comes back from 30-7 in the fourth quarter?
They ain't coming back on us.
No, come on now.
A lot of people had cut their TVs off, went to bed. It was just one of those things where you couldn't do anything right till you couldn't do anything wrong.
For those Jets fans who left this stadium, have we got news for you?
Max has got it.